Hello and welcome. I'm your host, David G. Firestone. This is the 5th episode of my lottery collection history. Now, I thought episode 4 would be the last episode, but after doing a little research, I stumbled across the topic of this video. I read about it. I decided that another episode would be very much worth the trouble, so here we go. Our story starts in December 1987. Because formed in December 1987 by 7 U.S. lotteries, the Multi-State Lottery Association, or MSLA, is a government benefit association known and operated by agreement of its 34 member lotteries and was created to facilitate the operation of multi-jurisdictional lottery games. Its first game was launched on February 13th, 1988 and is known as Lotto America. That game was rebranded to Powerball on April 19th, 1992, and we've all seen how it's gone since. Now, in addition to Powerball, the MSLA operates other multi-state games such as Mega Millions, 2x2, and the game we will discuss today, the second and current incarnation of Lotto America. Now, this current incarnation of Lotto America is different than the previous version, which again was rebranded to Powerball, because this was the MSLA's replacement for a regional game called Hot Lotto. Now, while the game was similar to Powerball, it did have some very subtle but critical differences. The first of these differences was that the game was only available in the District of Columbia, Delaware, Idaho, Iowa, Kansas, Maine, Minnesota, Montana, New Hampshire, New Mexico, North Dakota, Oklahoma, South Dakota, Tennessee, West Virginia, and Vermont. Powerball operates in all of those, but is also operational in Arizona, Arkansas, California, Connecticut, Colorado, Florida, Georgia, Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, New Jersey, New York, North Carolina, Ohio, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Puerto Rico, Rhode Island, South Carolina, Texas, the U.S. Virgin Islands, Virginia, Washington State, Wisconsin, and Wyoming. I should also note, for the sake of fair reporting, that Alabama, Alaska, Hawaii, Nevada, and Utah do not have state lotteries and as such do not participate in the MSLA. Now, the basic rule of Hot Lotto was a player played $1 and picked 5 numbers from 1 through 47, plus one additional hot ball number from 1 through 19 drawn from a second separate pool. Now, Hot Lotto also had an option called the Sizzler, or Triple Sizzler as it was known in North Carolina, where players could win triple the normal amount of a non-jackpot prize. So, for example, if you won the $30,000 second prize, it became $90,000 if the player activated the Sizzler option. But the other major difference, and the very critical difference between the Powerball and Hot Lotto drawings, was that not only were Hot Lotto drawings not televised, but they used a computerized random number generator instead of a traditional ball drawing machine. Now, this seemingly minor detail is very, very critical to what's about to happen. So our story in true form starts on December 29th, 2010, where a Hot Lotto drawing with a $16.5 million prize takes place. Fast forward to November 9th, 2011. A Quebec City resident in Canada by the name of Philip Johnston got in touch with the Iowa State Lottery. Mr. Johnson claimed he had the winning ticket from the December 29, 2011 drawing. Though he did state the correct code, he could not answer a series of questions about the ticket to verify that he was owner, and his claim was denied. So December 6th of 2011, an undeterred Johnson calls a second time, and in this call he claims that the ticket in question was actually owned by an anonymous individual who was being represented by a Belize-based shell company, Hexham Investments Trust. Because the Iowa lottery forbids anonymous prize claims, this claim was ultimately rejected. December 29, 2011, with 2 hours left before the 1-year deadline to claim a ticket runs out, representatives of a Des Moines, Iowa law firm arrive at the Iowa Lottery headquarters and present the winning ticket. Now, this ticket was signed on behalf of Hexham Investments and a New York City based attorney by the name of Crawford Shaw. Now, it was quickly noticed that Hexham had spelled the name on the ticket H-E-X-A-M, but the firm spelled it H-E-X-H-A-M. As such, the claim was, yet again, denied. January 12, 2012. Crawford Shaw meets with Iowa lottery officials yet again to try and claim the prize. This time, Shaw claims he's working with a trust, and when he was pressed as to who the owner or owners of said trust were, he refused to disclose them. This led to the prize being denied yet again, with the proceeds returning to the Hot Lotto members, Hot Lotto's various lotteries. If this whole sequence of events sounds weird, don't worry. The Iowa Lottery thought so too, and the Iowa Lottery contacted the Iowa's Division of Criminal Investigation. Philip Johnson is interviewed, and he's listed as Hexham's president. Now, he explains that two men, Robert Rhodes and Robert Sonfield of Sugar Land, Texas, had contacted him and asked him to help claim the prize anonymously. Later reporting would discover that it was reported that Rhodes and Sonfield were, according to anonymous sources, in active litigation over a pump and dump scam, and that Rhodes, Sonfield, and Johnson all had past business relationships. So this more or less goes under the radar for a while until October of 2014, when surveillance cameras showed footage from a convenience store in Des Moines, Iowa, that showed the actual purchaser of the ticket, a man by the name of Eddie Raymond Tipton, who was the director of information security for the Multi-State Lottery Association. In this footage, he was seen purchasing a hot dog and a lottery ticket. Now, as a matter of course, employees of the Multi-State Lottery Association are prohibited from purchasing tickets due to the potential of conflict of interest. So, in January of 2015, with this evidence in hand, Tipton was arrested and charged with 2 counts of fraud for attempting to illegally participate in the lottery and attempting to use fraudulent means to claim prizes. This also reveals that the above-mentioned Robert Rhodes is an associate of Tipton's, and he is arrested and charged by March of 2015. In April of 2015, Tipton's trial begins. The prosecution maintains that Tipton had rigged the Hot Lotto draw on December 9, 2010 so that the quote-unquote draw numbers would match the ticket. Also, according to the prosecution, on November 20, 2010, Tipton was let into the drawing room. At that time, Hot Lotto drawings were conducted using a random number generator running on a computer in the Multi-State Lottery Association's Des Moines, Iowa facility. The computer in question was, quote, in a locked glass-walled room accessible by only 2 people at a time and then only on camera. It is not connected to the internet or any network of any kind. Now, part of Tipton's job was to maintain the drawing computer. On November 20th, he was let in the room to manually adjust the time on the draw computer to reflect daylight savings time. It is alleged that while inside, he used a flash drive to install self-destructing malware on the random number generator computer, presumably to rig a draw. Witness statements from Tipton's co-workers noted that Tipton was obsessed with roof kits at the time. And it's also noted that on the day in question that he was in the room, security cameras were configured to record only roughly 1 second of footage per minute. Now, although it has never been confirmed, prosecutors believe that this was done to prevent anything suspicious from being recorded, and that and the suspicious manner that Tipton had allegedly attempted to claim the ticket was more than enough to convince a jury of Tipton's guilt. Because on July 20, 2015, Tipton is convicted on both fraud charges. September 9th, he is sentenced to 10 years in prison but allowed to remain free on bond pending appeal. Now, while all of this is going on, lottery investigators were investigating, and they found out that this was not the first instance of lottery fraud committed by Tipton. let's turn the clock back to November 23rd, 2005. Tipton's brother Tommy won a $568,990 jackpot prize in a Colorado lottery drawing. Eddie Tipton was among those who constructed Colorado's random number generator. A friend of Tommy Tipton claims Tommy asked him to claim the ticket in return for 10% of the winnings. Let's fast forward to December 29th, 2007. A prize of $783,257 was won in a Wisconsin lottery drawing and paid to a limited liability corporation owned by Robert Rhodes, who had also been charged in the 2010 Hot Lotto case. Records show that the corporation transferred money to Tipton. November 23rd, 2011, a jackpot of $1.2 million was paid to Kyle Kahn, good name, owner of a construction company in Texas. Kahn bought the ticket from the Oklahoma lottery, and investigators were suspicious because Kahn was not a frequent player, came from out of state, and specified winning numbers manually instead of relying on a random pick. Forensic evidence also reveals that the 2007 Megabucks drawing showed that it had been programmed to produce knowable outcomes. These outcomes could be predicted if the drawing occurred on 3 days, specifically May 27th, November 23rd, and December 29th. This was provided that these dates occurred on Wednesdays or Saturdays, and if the drawing in question was after 8 p.m. So on October 19th, 2015, Eddie Tipton was charged with the newly discovered instances of fraud. January 2017, Robert Rhodes pleads guilty to the Iowa charges. And in March of that year, Rhodes also pleads guilty to charges and in turn agrees to testify against Tipton and his brother for the December 29, 2007 charges. Now, he is sentenced to 6 months of house arrest and is ordered to pay $409,000 in restitution. So, in June of 2017, Eddie Tipton finally confesses in open court to rigging the random number generator. He states that this took place in either 2005 or 2006, unable to remember exactly when. In his own words, quote, "I wrote software that included code that allowed me to technically predict winning numbers, and I gave those numbers to individuals who then won the lottery and shared the winnings with me," he said. In addition to Iowa, Tipton also confessed to fixing drawings in Colorado, Oklahoma, Wisconsin, and Kansas. Eddie Tipton was sentenced to 25 years in prison. Eddie and Tommy are also sentenced to pay restitution of $3 million. We'll get to that in a minute. Tommy Tipton was sentenced to 75 days in prison, and he had already served his sentence. In July of 2022, Eddie Tipton was released on parole. And when it comes to restitution, both brothers have gone out of their way to not pay the nearly $2.3 million in restitution they owe, even going so far as to transfer properties they own to their mother's name. On October 28, 2017, the final Hot Lotto drawing took place. By the end, Hot Lotto would be dead. It had a bad reputation, less and less people were buying tickets, and when all was said and done, the game's reputation was ruined. And as a final kick to the balls, the final Hot Lotto jackpot was not won. On November 12th, 2017, tickets go on sale for the newly revived Lotto America, and on November 15th, the first new Lotto America drawing took place, whereas Hot Lotto had used a random number generator to draw numbers, but Eddie Tipton ruined that, so they went back to the physical ball numbers and numbered balls. Now, the game was also tweaked in terms of gameplay, because for each $1 play, better choose between 5 numbers 1 through 52 and a quote-unquote star ball numbered 1 through 10. Now, for an additional $1 per play, the bettor can add the All-Star bonus option, which multiplies the jackpots by the non-jackpot prizes by 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, the minimum Lotto America jackpot is $2 million. It's a game that has been going strong ever since. And with that, this really is the final episode of my lottery history series. I'll be moving on to other things. I'm Defuzz, and if you like, comment, and subscribe. I will see you next week.